Why am I still talking about this after 20 years? Okay. I think most of my viewers know that I haven't worked for the Fast franchise for almost 20 years. And every time I try to pull away from it, something sucks me back in. But my job as technical advisor allowed me to witness the production of the first couple movies and advise on things like the choices of the cars, the builds of the cars, some dialogue, and be active with marketing efforts in support of the movie as they came out. And of course, they used the Supramax and the Skyline GTR, which also opened some other doors, so I've been telling those stories for the last 4 years. But the actual building of the cars has been handled by the picture car teams. Those are the guys who put the cars together. And since Tokyo Drift, those duties have fallen to Dennis McCarthy and the amazing craftsmen, fabricators, designers, builders, painters, and the many other individuals who support the projects in-house and as suppliers to the projects. And as much as these things have changed over the 20 years, some things remain the same. We're going to talk about that. Right now, again, the mainstream media continues to exaggerate and make assumptions and sensationalize stories. And it's happening again with this franchise. Again, I thought it was done. That story is coming up right after the break. So guys, check this out. They just told me that they're actually going to be selling these body kits. So here's the deal. They're going to produce only 6 kits. 6 and done. That's it. Only 6, forever discontinued. Done, done, done. $3,000 per kit. You have to leave a $1,500 deposit, and then your production time will take 6 to 8 weeks. Again, 6 kits, 6 full kits, and that's it. Never to be reproduced again. Molds are going to be destroyed. So if you want one of these kits, reach out to me on my Instagram or in the video comments below, and I will put you in touch with the people who are taking care of the transaction. So if you want one, get it now. Once they're gone forever, 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 forever. Most of you know that Fast 10 has been filming for the last few months. I think they're in week 19 or week 20. My loyal viewers and followers have been kind enough to send me pictures from Italy, England, Portugal, and Spain. And I passed these pictures through my social posts because people seem to come to me as some sort of repository of information. I'm happy to share those pics, but sometimes I can't because they're confidential. Other times I can't share them because I can't name the source, that kind of thing. When I can, I share the OP's name. 2 days ago, I started getting pics from the Toretto house showing that cars were coming and going. So I posted 1 or 2 and I thought that was the end of it. Okay, we got a Dodge Charger coming in. I didn't think anything of it. It's the same old thing. The next morning though, I get notified that the local residents in the neighborhood where they're filming were angry and that they were directing their anger at Universal. I was like, what? They're getting paid. What are they mad about? Turns out that neighborhood has been living with sideshows day and night for a long time. They're blaming Universal for glorifying street racing. Now, I've been to that location twice in 20 years. And once was for a memorial for John Lapid. The second time was just for a regular car meet. I didn't see any of that stuff. I mean, parking situation is not good there, but everybody was respectful. The group I was with was respectful. But turns out that neighborhood has been living with sideshows day and night for a long time. They blamed Universal for glorifying street racing, like that's bringing people to that neighborhood to do burnouts. This kind of nonsense is not new. Back in 2001, when I was working for Universal, they asked me to be interviewed by news, TV, and magazine reporters to talk about the movie. I had no script. I was on my own and no coaching, nothing. And over the course of 7 months, I was interviewed more than 250 times. In almost every interview, these young journalists, most of whom couldn't change a tire if they had to, were suddenly experts in the history of automotive culture. They tried very hard to steer my interview to suggest that the first movie was glorifying street racing. Not with me. I was running NYRA and I was anti-street racing back then. I was quick to remind these reporters that many other movies featuring street racing of some sort came long before Universal's Fast and Furious movie. Movies like Two-Lane Blacktop back in 1971, American Graffiti, Cannonball Run, Redline 7000, The Great Race, and many others showed high speed on public roads as a central part of their movie stories. Every James Bond did it and still does it, and so did many heist films. Yet somehow these reporters seem to forget all of those movies, or maybe they weren't old enough to see them in the theater. Let us not forget, the first movie had 2 street races. The first one and the one at the railroad tracks, and that's really it. All of the rest of the racing was on a sanctioned track. Do you remember that? race wars, that's it. All the other high-speed scenes were during heist or chasing the bad guys. In each case, the outcome was either a crash or chased by cops, with one exception, the exception being the one where they're climbing up to Neptune's net on PCH. So you're going to see this kind of stuff in every crime movie, right? In focus groups, some of the media who were there were talking about, do you think this is glorifying street racing? So Universal was very cognizant of that, and so they decided to do some more editing and then tone down the action scenes for fear of making the tuner crowd look like hoodlums. I've told that story before, I won't get into it again. 20 years later, though, what we saw in the first film was G-rated compared to real life today. Today's intersection takeovers and sideshows and police chases are right out of the video game Grand Theft Auto. It doesn't vaguely resemble any of the Fast and Furious movies. People are shooting guns out of their car windows. They're running over people and then fleeing. It's way worse today than it was 20 years ago, and it was way worse than anything showed in any Fast and Furious movie, and no torpedoes were used. Now that you're caught up on the past history, fast forward to today. The residents who live near the Toretto house now are taking to the media to help stop the sideshows in their neighborhood. So apparently, drivers are coming up to their neighborhood, doing donuts, throwing bottles out of their windows. They're flashing laser lights for no reason. They're shooting guns into the air. They're throwing bottles. They're destroying and tearing up the pavement. And in some cases, setting off fireworks. And we're talking about 3 o'clock in the morning, not like 2 o'clock in the afternoon or at dusk. Frankly, though, the people of that neighborhood have had enough. So on Friday, August 26, residents of the area called Angelino Heights organized a gathering and invited reporters to protest what they call the promoting of street racing through the Fast and Furious movies. I guess none of them have seen the past 7 movies because it got nothing to do with street racing. Several of the residents have actually lost innocent family members in street racing incidents. My heart goes out to them for sure. I understand their frustration, but fair is fair. I feel their anger is completely misplaced. Like I just said, the Fast movies have turned into action movies. They all have car chases like any other action movie. Transporter, Italian Job, Gone in 60 Seconds. We can go on and on and on and on and on. For the most part, they moved away from the street racing. So let me break this down. I summarily reject the notion that when someone commits a crime, it's somebody else's fault. You commit a crime, you do the time. Universal has never promoted street racing. In fact, before the first movie, Paul Walker recorded a public service announcement that was to be shown before the movie in the theaters. I know because I sat in the theater on opening night. It basically said, the stunts you are about to see were filmed on closed roads using professional stunt drivers and safety equipment. Please don't try to do these stunts on public roads, and don't ever straight pipe a VQ motor, and if you ever buy a Dodge Challenger or Dodge Charger, please take off those ridiculous yellow spoiler covers. Okay, I made that last part up. So what happened? Right after the movie, and I was down here in South Orange County, every fart can Honda Civic in the parking lot was revving to the red line and doing one-wheel burnouts. So clearly Universal's public service announcement did nothing. But the final irony was that Paul Walker died in a car that was speeding on the street, which is horrific. My point is that Universal went out of its way to caution viewers, but despite everything they tried to do, it comes down to one thing: people are responsible for their own actions, right? I just feel like society is just losing that notion that a personal responsibility. It used to be a basic tenet of a civilized society. People must be held accountable for their actions. Now it's somebody else's fault. I was a beat up kid, I was bullied or whatever. I don't blame people for their actions, but they must pay the price. It's the way I was raised, and it's what maintains society as a civilization, right? So back to the families in Angelino Heights, I definitely sympathize with you. I've actually moved one time because of loud traffic, so I know it's actually horrible, and it must be really horrible. But let me ask you a few questions. So I'm not trying to get political, okay, because I've voted for candidates on both sides of the aisle, so I'm a middleman. But let me ask you this. Who did you vote for in the past elections? Did you vote for the candidates who would be tough on crime, or did you pick the other candidate who vowed to turn people loose on their own recognizance with no bail 10 minutes after they're booked? You see where I'm going? So if you're picking the wrong candidates and voting for the wrong way on initiatives, you have to shoulder some of the responsibility of the consequences. It's just like being in a homeowners association, right? Also ask yourself the question, are you donating to causes that defund the police? How is that working out for you? Also, let's not forget that Universal is paying residents handsomely each time that they film there. Everybody's getting a payout one way or another, right? Here's a perfect example. In the year 2000, the Toretto house was a sagging, sort of sad-looking and rundown building. And the 20 years since, the whole place has been remodeled remodeled and repainted multiple times, so other residents have been compensated as well. However, I am not suggesting for a second that residents should just put up with sideshows because you make a few bucks when Universal films there. The two things are completely unrelated. What I'm trying to make the point is that Universal makes action films with car chases, and these movies have nothing to do with criminals who commit traffic crimes in your area. Two separate things. The actions of the drivers are their own will. Some might blame the parents, but let's be real, even great parents sometimes wind up with bad kids, again, because they are responsible for their own actions. Frankly, I think you should sit down as a group and spend some time playing the video game called Grand Theft Auto and see if that looks more like what you're seeing on the street versus what you're seeing in the Fast and Furious movies. And I suggest then you have another press conference and talk about Grand Theft Auto. And as I said at the top of this video, I haven't worked for Universal for almost 20 years. I'm making this video of my own volition. Nobody's paying me. Nobody's threatening me, anything like this. This is just a fact. This is the way I feel. And if you look back at my YouTube videos, you'll see this is probably my 5th video about sideshows, takeovers, and street racing. And as a person who has been in the automobile hobby since 1979, I can tell you that the only way to stop the bad behavior is to hold the perpetrators responsible. It's nobody else's fault but the people who have the keys in their hand, right? Take their cars, revoke their licenses, give graduated and lengthy sentences to those who offend. You have to do it. The sentences need to be serious, severe, and life-changing. And until that happens, it's not going to go away. And if you vote soft on crime, do you really think you should be complaining about the rise in crime? It fascinates me. What kind of logic is that? Ultimately, I want it to stop too. I don't like seeing young people die needlessly and suffer consequences that can be avoided, which is responsible action. And you can bet that no one at Universal wants that either. But be fair, place the blame where the blame belongs. Get the law enforcement up there, set up some cones, speed bumps, what you got to do. But don't suggest that it's Universal's fault. Because it's just not. I'm sorry. But I do hope it gets better for you guys. And if any of you are watching this and you go up to the Toretto House regularly, and Bob's Market and everything, please be respectful of the residents there. Park in a safe place. Do it right. Be quiet. Don't blast your stereo. Be mindful and respectful. We need to be ambassadors, and I hope you will listen to that advice. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you in the theaters May 23rd, 2023.